Teaga for a loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2060, Baron versus Arteaga.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Barone, case is not a very difficult one. You met Mr. Arteaga?
Arteaga.
Take your hands out of your pockets. At a bar?
Yes.
When?
Back in June of 2021?
Did you ever live together?
No.
You always maintained your own residence and he his?
Yes, the apartment I owned was always underneath my name.
But he never lived there?
No.
Good.
If I'm not mistaken, May.
May of what year?
May of 2021.
Was it a new car?
Yes.
Give me a rough number. How much was it?
Out the door, 72,000.
And what color did you order?
Black.
This is what and because of whatever strange reason, you wanted the car wrapped. Now, I think most people know what that means, and I think I know what that means. That means you take a perfectly good car and you put a different finish on it. Is that what it means?
Yes.
You buy a car that has a nice shiny finish and looks clean, and then you put something on it that, I don't know, looks like it's been sitting out under a volcano.
I guess you could say that.
What?
I guess you could say that.
I just said I read $3,800.
No, it's 3,950.
How much?
3,950.
And you had some of that money, but you gave him, transferred to him, $1,800 on your credit card.
Yeah, so it was an agreement made between...
No, I didn't ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Made the payment for him.
You made the payment for him on a credit card?
Yes.
And according to you, your arrangement was that he would pay you back monthly $100.
Correct.
You don't dispute that.
She offered.
Yeah, she offered. And you did, in fact, on 3 separate months, pay her back $100.
Yes.
And that means that in your view, it was a loan.
Well, it was more of a gift.
Well, then why would you pay her back $100 a month, Mr. Arteaga?
Because our finances are much different. She
What do
is a paint protection film, so I'm more...
Listen to me.
Yeah.
You're not answering my question. You're doing a dance around my question. If it was a gift to you, this $1,800 towards the wrap for your car, why did you pay her back $300? Have the Tesla?
I still do.
Yes. You making payments on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. What kind of work do you do?
I'm an electrical superintendent.
Expensive car.
Indeed it is.
You're a single guy?
Yes.
That's what single guys do with their money. Tell me why you stopped paying her back, Mr. Arteaga.
Things got sour very quick.
So things got sour with the relationship?
Yes.
Okay. And is that when you stopped paying her?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500 is what he owes you for the balance of the loan. Thank you. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
We broke up. It was a nasty break out of pettiness at the end of the day.
Because she caused a lot of rift.
I'm just not going to loan out money to just anyone from here on out.
I'm glad it's over.
And I'm really happy I get my $1,500 back.
Give a boyfriend money and expect to ever see it again. You will never see it again. It gets messy, it gets entangled, and we see it time and time again. So it's just hits even harder at home.
Have you noticed, Sarah, that it's probably 80-20 that women give money to boyfriends?
At least what we've seen here, yes.
You know, and if this is a microcosm of the world, and I don't know what that is, I haven't been able to figure it out. I've been doing this kind of business for 30 years. Car. And says, hey, babe, I'm short $1,800. Well, if you're short $1,800, buy a cheaper car.
Yeah.
You know, there are cars that cost less than $72,000. Anyway.
But women should be smarter and not agree to do
smarter.
that.
They ought to make mandatory watching these cases.
Videographer Garrett Manny for unfinished video services.
Court come to order. All rise.
Thank you. Have a seat.
Hello, Judge. Case 2089, Brooks versus Manley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brooks, you are a realtor.
Yes.
And you also decided to go into the business of buying houses, fixing them up, and flipping them.
That's correct, Your Honor.
When did you decide to do that?
I started my company in 2017.
Was that just a real estate company, or was that the company that bought houses and renovated them and sold them? Which one?
That was my company that I started for flipping houses.
Do you have a partner in that business?
No, it's just myself.
From 2017 until now, how many houses have you sold and flipped?
This would have been my third one.
The house that we're talking about now?
Yes.
And when did you purchase that house?
I purchased it in March of 2020.
How much did you pay for it?
$200,000.
This is what the case is about. For that house, just that house, you commissioned Mr. Maney,
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
and you're a videographer,
Yes, Your Honor, photographer and videographer.
to video for the purposes of advertising the project from start to finish, what it looked like when you purchased it, and sort of ongoing throughout the process, taking video of what you did to change cosmetically the inside and or the outside of the house. And you had an agreed price with him, which you paid. How much was that?
$1,919.
And it is your claim that since Mr. Maney did not finish the project and did not take the end product of what the house looked like when it was finished, you acknowledge he did come at other times and took video of what the house looked like at the beginning and the middle. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
But didn't do the video of the end that you want your entire, well, the job was supposed to take 4 months. It took almost a year. He didn't sign on for that, which may be. But more important, is there a video? Do you have a video of what he took? Do you have a video of what you gave her?
I have in my Google Drive a ton of video of what I've taken, but at the end, I have evidence showing we had scheduled for me to come in and do that final video. Everything was on point. Then she tells me here,
No,
it's going to be
just a
completed.
second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to let you have an opportunity
Okay, sorry, Your Honor.
to tell me what your defense is to this case, if you need one. I just want to see some video of what you took. Doesn't anybody have that here? I mean, if 3/4 of the project was completed with video, and the only thing, according to you, that he didn't do was the end, that's what you just told me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so did he give you the video that was done?
I got nothing, Your Honor.
Your Honor, she has had access to the Google Drive with all of the video components in there. I cannot complete the final edits to put everything together until she completed things on her part, which was never done, which was spoken of from the beginning.
Completing things on her part meant completing the house.
Completing the house, talking points.
Okay,
to
but
go through.
video is completing the house.
That's part of it.
Part of it, and the other one is audio where she tells you what's been done.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm just thinking out loud. Why didn't you do that yourself?
Your Honor, I never had a video to be able to go and do my...
No,
walking
I'm saying,
point.
I'm saying, did you have access to what he had done up until that time? That's either a yes or a no. Do you have some evidence to show me that the plaintiff had access to the video that you had shot of 3/4 of the project being completed?
I believe I have something in here about uploading stuff into the Google Drive, which if she didn't have access to that Google Drive, then how did she upload the final walkthrough video that I do have evidence of that is not professional, that I was unable to complete due to her lack of commitment?
Just a second. You have video of what?
There is video evidence of the final walkthrough that was done by somebody on a phone camera because she canceled on me
Okay,
last
just a
minute when
second.
we were supposed to do it.
Just a second. Where did you get that evidence from?
She uploaded it into the Google Drive that had all of the videos, which she had access to,
Okay.
obviously,
So,
if she put it in there.
So what you're saying is Miss Brooks added a video of a final walkthrough that was done by whom?
My son.
By her son. And she added that final walkthrough to the Google Drive, and therefore you were able to get it. And she tacked that on to the work that you did complete. Is that what you're telling me?
All of the rest of the videos are in that same Google
were
Drive.
it's in the
Your
same
Honor, yes.
Google Drive?
Which she had access
I
to
got
the
it.
entire
Now I'd like to see the video.
which is not professional quality.
What did you do with that, Miss Brooks?
Your Honor,
What did you do with it?
nothing.
At first, you told me you didn't have access, that you never saw them. Then they were available to you and your son to be able to look at them. You say you got them.
Rosa Brooks claims videographer Garrett Manny did not finish her home renovation video.
You didn't send it to him. There's no question you didn't send it to him.
He requested...
You did not send it to him.
No, I didn't no, my son sent it to him.
How do I know that?
He requested it from my son because he asked me to, but I did not know how to forward it to him on the format that he was requiring. I also have tried to meet with Mr. Manning to have him upload or transfer all of the video that I videotaped of when he couldn't make it to his office so that he can upload it onto his computer so he can edit it. He never gave me an edited copy of
Just
anything.
a second. Ms. Brooks, is what you're telling me you have never seen any video of the 3/4 of the job that you acknowledge that he did? Are you telling me you've never seen any of those videos?
Never seen any of those videos, Your Honor, only
Okay.
when he was recording it at the property.
Mr. Maney, you wanted to show me something
Yes, Your Honor. Well, there is
at the beginning when we started.
a few things here.
First of all, you have on your Google Drive
Yes, Your Honor.
all of the video that you took,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you currently have it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any way that I can see any of it?
Absolutely. I also have another video that shows
See on the Google Drive who has access to it.
Oh,
I removed the access when this case came up because I didn't want, at this point, I don't trust the plaintiff. So I removed her access so that she couldn't go and delete the videos and try to claim that she never had
you had
access.
access to them. Got it.
Let me see.
Give the phone to Sarah, please, Kevin.
There it is, flip videos. That's all the different files with all of the different videos. And there may be something that you can push in there to see when people had access at one point, because I had access for herself as well as her son. And she has prior uploaded videos into there herself.
There's more than 30 videos in here, and
Those are just
I
files.
see the two little people on Google Drive, which usually indicates that it's shared with more than one person.
Is it currently shared with anybody other than the defendant? He said he took her off the shared access.
Rosa Brooks does have access to all of the videos.
She does.
Your Honor, can I explain why he set up that folder? Because I also took video myself to upload onto that. He showed me how to do that.
He told me that you also did, but he said that this file also includes the video footage that he took.
Yes, but it was never edited, so I can do voiceovers.
Just a second. I asked you a specific question, Ms. Brooks. I said, did you ever see any of the video that he took? Your answer was no.
No.
Correct?
Correct.
Well, the fact that you didn't look at it, I don't believe. I find no validity to why, if you had it and you were coming to court today and you were dissatisfied, why you wouldn't look at it. You had your son have access to it, and I don't know how old your son is, who took the end work for you. Clearly, $1,900 worth of work. Clearly. So what happened at the end that caused you to have your son do an end look at what the place looked like? I don't know why, but Mr. Maney said that he has an email from you that I'm going to look at now. That would sort of be dispositive of what happened at the end run of this case. Well, Sarah, could you give me just one look at his?
Sure. So he has all of these different files for different sections of the home, driveway, fireplace, and if you click on them, these are all of the videos taken for flooring. And if you click on this, it's a video of them doing flooring, and you can see who has access to the clips. Her son,
Jeffrey
the
and
plaintiff,
Rosa.
and the owner is the defendant.
Okay, got it.
And there's probably over 50 videos in the file.
So that you and your son had access to these videos over an extended period of time. The fact that you didn't look at it, that's not my problem.
Your Honor, my son did that video late at the end, towards the end of
What
the...
I'm telling you is you had access to these videos.
Well,
at first
I
you
did.
told me you didn't have access, that you never saw them. Then they were available to you and your son to be able to look at them. You say you never looked at them. I actually find that unbelievable,
Your
Ms. Brooks.
Honor,
I find it unbelievable that you had them and you didn't look at them.
I didn't feel it was a need to look at them, Your Honor. I was anticipating going up to Mr. Manny's office, so once he edited, I could do the voiceovers on them.
Okay.
There was no real
Ms. Brooks,
purpose.
I don't believe that you didn't look at them, and I don't believe that you didn't look at them. How much did you sell the house?
That folder for me to
how much did you
put my videos into.
How much did you? You're trying to talk over me. That's
Your
not
Honor,
happening.
I'm not
You
doing-
sold the house in what month and year?
The house closed on January 2022.
And what did you sell it for?
$555,000.
So you made $350,000.
No, Your Honor, $270,000 went into the house renovation.
Just a second. You sold it for $350,000 more than you paid for it.
Your Honor, I use hard money, and there's lots of.
Just a second. I know you're arguing with me. You bought it for $200,000. You sold it for $550,000.
Yes.
My math is not great, but that's a difference of $350,000. That's all I said to you. I said you bought it for $200,000, you sold it, and the difference between the purchase price and the sale price was $350,000.
Yes, that's correct,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So even if you made in those few short months $150,000, you didn't do the physical labor on the house. You had workmen do the physical labor on
I
the
did
house.
some of it, Your Honor.
Well, you made a handsome profit. I want you to tell me what you think his work is worth.
Rosa Brooks has accused videographer Garrett Manny of not completing her home renovation video.
Now, you sold it in January of 2022.
That's correct.
That's when it closed.
Yes.
When did it go into contract?
Early in the project, Your Honor, it was pretty much the third month after I purchased it. So I purchased it in March. It was under contract around July of 2020.
Well, there was a lot of back and forth and a little bit of cancellation on your part back in December. You forth on the endgame video.
Yes, Your Honor. And he
He also what?
He also canceled as well. He has to.
Well, that's all right, but
Yeah, back and forth. We both had cancellations, and
I understand that, but this was for the final piece, which is what you're complaining about. The final piece.
Your Honor, he was not responding to me at some point when I tried to contact him to get the opportunity to go to his office to give him the rest of the footage that he needed, that he requested, that he was difficult about because I wasn't able to forward it to him in the format that he needed it for. I offered to come up to his office so that he can, transfer from my phone.
I'm going to ask you a question, Miss Brooks. I just want to see what I'm dealing with.
Yes.
How many files of video did he have?
Oh, I can't tell.
You told me 30?
There's at least 30.
I had tons of video myself in there that I uploaded that he taught me how to put into those folders. A lot of those videos are my videos that he didn't take.
I don't care. It was on the same thing that you could have looked at and told me that you didn't, which I don't believe. So I want you to understand that. He was involved. There are 30 files. I want you to tell me, how much do you think that on a time basis Mr. Maney is entitled to? You paid him $1,919. He did clearly countless of hours of videoing your project. At the end, it turned south, and the videos were available to you. I want you to give me a figure of what you think is fair.
To do his filming.
Where does he live?
Second, he lives like the next town over from me.
Just a second, so he has to get there.
Yes.
I want you to think, Ms. Brooks, I want you to think of what you personally did to make a profit of $350,000.
Your Honor, I didn't profit that amount.
I'm telling you, that's the difference. You may have spent money in renovating the property, but that's the difference between what you purchased it for and what you sold it for, $350,000. So the sweat of your brow, your work ethic is worth something. So even if you made in those few short months $150,000, you didn't do the physical labor on the house. You had workmen do the physical labor on the house.
I did some of it, Your Honor.
Well, maybe, but you made a handsome profit. I want you to tell me what you think Mr. Maney's work was worth to you, because I'm telling you right now, I am viewing this case as if you and your son had access to 3/4 of the finished product. So I want you to tell me what you think his work is worth.
Your Honor, it's worthless to me that I didn't get the video.
Okay.
I had a website that I needed the video for. once the job was completed.
Well, that's unfortunate. You should have had your son do it. Since you can't give me a figure, I'm dismissing your case. We're done. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
First of all, I paid him for something that I never got anything for.
They had access to the files the whole time.
And as far as him saying he uploaded some videos,
The only reason I wasn't able to get the final video
yes, they were uploaded, but I never got a chance to really review them.
is because she canceled on me like 12 hours before we were supposed to do it.
I was not anticipating on reviewing anything that was not edited.
It was her lack of put together a commitment.
Not to pay for anything up.
Not happy. That says something.
I love Google Drive. They leave a record. You can see who started the file, who shared the file, who has access to it, who had revoke access. So I could see as soon as I logged in, he was very organized. He had different areas of the house labeled, individual videos of flooring progress, all of those were owned by him, shared with the plaintiff to be able to view them. So I don't understand why people lie about things that are so easily to be fact-checked.
And did it make sense to you that if you had this project going and it was the first time that you were memorializing one of your flipped houses, although she had two before, that it was something that she was interested in?
I know for myself on Google Drive, you get emails when things get uploaded. I would have been checking the second that the video got uploaded.
It doesn't make sense that she didn't look at them.
No, not at all. There were some videos that she potentially did add to the Google Drive, so I did see some of those.
Well, that's so interesting, because in order to be able to do that, you have to know
access.
that. Right. Didn't make sense. Not only didn't it make sense, but she had an end video, and it was clearly from the emails back and forth. She would make a date and then say, you know, her buyers aren't exactly ready. She needs a little more wiggle room. Could you make it this? She made it. Anyway, I found it sort of unbusinesslike. Did not say. Somebody did work, clearly spent hours videotaping for her. So if you didn't get your final video, but 3/4 of it was finished and could easily be edited by anybody, to find the work he did worthless.
I feel like it was a little bit of buyer's remorse for the video because she was intending to use this video to maybe attempt to sell it. And I presume it was to try and sell the home or her business as a flipper.
Her business.
And vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It wasn't said like that, but we did not lose a...
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed in your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. Anyway, you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater, among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending at a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay, and you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I did not. I just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay, so you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the 17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close.
That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
what
on
were you
concession
supposed
stand.
to do?
and run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on, so anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do.
Yes, ma'am.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up
And
paying
just a
us.
second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we did.
Mr.
We opened.
Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a bar.
For how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday.
10th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him, for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for him that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
And what do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him. Anything that he was calling me over to do.
No, that's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
No, I can tell
That's
you
a little
exactly.
too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
He
true,
started
Your Honor.
Don't
working.
speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th, from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20th.
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. And that was June 19th.
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, et cetera, and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
You mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open, close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, et cetera.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
Not
just the
painting,
theater, just the theater.
in the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater. and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, there was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking
18.
about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours. So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
There was no actual documentation, like we did not have a clock in, clock out, but the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
It's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing.
Part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting, that the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you, you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose,
Yeah.
How much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr. Hendrickson
It's 11 in Arkansas.
What?
would be 17 an hour.
And he made 17 an hour.
Correct. For
Okay.
12 hours at 200.
But there was no
Those
actual.
hours are not correct.
There was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data. We
Just
have
a
no
second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want
Of
the
the
money.
theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay. And this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, opening, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an alcohol if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agree.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
For that stuff.
So you signed them?
Called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris and stuff like that in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
We actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And they,
it was completely vacant. And
at the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
Correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks or he you about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol. And that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
just a second.
instance.
Just
no,
a
ma'am.
How many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together and it was 52.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting.
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had
no... The reason why he was asking us to paint because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask Noah to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know where your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call. It didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, 29th,
correct, Your Honor.
30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The
That's
ABC
when
report
it's-
was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them,
Just
and
a
there's
second.
no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage. After the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was
So that-
during. It was during.
What?
It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that I'm not
wasn't just
sympath-
me that
you're
filed
getting,
the report
you're
with
getting,
ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also
Harlan
jobless?
filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't have-
Nobody
we
was
shouldn't have
fired.
reported it at all.
No, but
we shouldn't have
no, I'm
reported it?
trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
My motive? I have no motive.
Speak,
I am just owed
don't
what-
try to speak
work
over
for.
me. Don't try to speak over me. That
Now I'm trying to
doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed a thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. They conducted an investigation as a result of the calls.
Absolutely.
All I have to ask you is this. Do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've had multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th, 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes,
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just
7 days.
23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you work
ma'am.
weekends.
Yes.
It's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all
sorry,
the
I haven't tried, Your Honor. I
Let
just
me
need
ask
to be able
my
to
question,
speak.
sir. How do you calculate up to 52 when you don't remember how many hours you worked each day?
Looking at the text messages and seeing when I got there and when I left, because I texted him when I opened the doors and when I locked up.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically.
What?
Technically, yes.
What do you mean technically yes?
Because they're not completely correct. I didn't text him right when I got there, and I didn't text him right when I was leaving. I texted him when I got home or after I had started.
Okay, let's go back.
A Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson have accused their former employer, Christopher Ricks, of vandalizing Noah's car and refusing to pay wages. Christopher claims they slandered his business.
Now, you have photographs of the place before you started painting and afterwards? You have any photographs?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see them.
It's just the paint on the floor.
Just a second.
Okay, very well.
I have eyes.
That's before they're painted, Your Honor.
These are your photographs.
Yes, ma'am.
You painted the floor.
No, ma'am. We had to declutter a couple of units that had stuff.
One unit.
Like that.
Shh, don't speak. You had to, what you call declutter, and you had to sweep it up before you started painting.
It was worse.
Okay. And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this a picture of what you allege it looked like?
All of the units had stuff in them just like that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is the floor that you painted?
Yes.
Is that the floor that they painted?
One of the three.
Okay. So they painted the floors. Did you paint anything else other than the floors?
Well, we painted the walls.
They painted the
Sorry,
walls. They
it was
dripped on the floors, Your Honor.
Okay.
They're brand new flooring.
We were told it didn't have to be perfect.
Just a second. You didn't put these floors in, did you? I thought they painted them.
No. They were to do touch-up only, and there was one unit that needed to be finalized, and that was the one you saw that was bad.
We were having
and
to
the
prime
floors
and
were
paint walls.
I told you, don't speak when he is. I'll come back to you.
the floors were brand new, and like I said, I provided drop cloths and such. They didn't use them.
That's not true.
Shh. What is this?
That's the one unit that was not completely emptied out.
Okay. This one.
Yeah, there was one single unit.
And this one.
That's the same unit.
And this.
Same unit.
Okay. And the rest of them were cleaned out.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
All new floor.
Yes, the pictures of the, yes.
The pictures of the mess are all one unit of the 20. Okay. And how many units did they paint for you, Mr. Ricks?
They didn't finish any of the units. They were in 3 units, Your Honor.
Okay.
And 3 units have damage.
Okay. What you're telling me is they didn't do a good job in 3 units.
Correct.
Okay. Well,
They didn't finish it at all.
That, I'd like to see the photographs of what they didn't finish.
The paper copies, there you go. And there should be one that's a door that's not even painted. You can see it's two-tone. And the flooring is where they, I guess, scraped the floor.
Okay, this is the same picture as this.
No, that's different. I could show you on my phone, too, if you'd like. They're different. It's like in one of the areas, they tried to use a tool to scrape paint off in different areas, and that's what was left.
You're talking about...
Me with any
That's
tools.
not true. There was no tools provided for us at all.
I didn't ask you anything. Is what you're saying to me, sir, that the reason you didn't... I assume you weren't paid for this work. Is that correct?
Your Honor.
Not even for cleaning out that unit, really.
Weren't paid. Now, I assume, Mr. Ricks, that you didn't pay them because you thought that they did a poor job.
No, ma'am, that's not accurate.
Why didn't you pay them?
They didn't do the job.
They worked there at some point.
I agreed with Harland only to pay him $3,000.
Harlan, that was you.
Yes.
That's you. You agreed with Harlan.
For that job.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's
for
incorrect.
$3,000.
You're almost finished. Do you understand? You're almost done. 1, 2, 3 warnings, then I'm finished with you. And it wouldn't bother me at all. I have to tell you, it wouldn't bother me at all. Now, what arrangement did you make as far as payment is concerned?
On June...
Mr. Hendrickson started the job first on June 23rd.
He was to meet me, and he did. He was late. He was supposed to meet me early. I showed him the whole scope of the project because he hadn't been there, and what I wanted done, what I expected. And we agreed on the price of $3,000. And after they got halfway done, which was 10 units, I would pay them $1,500. And then when they were complete, I would pay the entire $3,000. They didn't get past 3, Your Honor.
3 of the 20.
Yes, ma'am. And they didn't finish any of those at all.
Okay. What I'm saying to you, Mr. Ricks, you took one guy.
Right.
Who you didn't know from a hole in the wall.
Yes, ma'am.
You took a second guy who you knew was there because I believe that you knew he was there painting with Mr.
Right.
Joyner.
Mr. Hendricks actually fired him twice. You can see in text message if you need to see that.
You mean Mr. Hendrickson fired Mr. Joyner?
Yeah, he's
there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It was a group. They decided to do a group thing. This is right here. It says, never mind. No, one's not going to help me anymore.
Group chat.
And then there's an additional where he says again that I'm going to let Noah have a couple of days off.
Just a second. Mr. Hendrickson, so on the 29th, you indicated to Mr. Ricks that Noah, that would be you, is not going to be helping me anymore.
Yes.
Yes, and you want to tell me why?
Noah and I had...
No, look at me.
Noah and I had an argument at the painting job
Tell me about
we were arguing...
Tell me about the argument, sorry.
We were
When did you have it?
arguing about the detail that we were putting into our work. I walked in and Noah was paying a lot of attention to detail, and Chris told me that the job did not have to be perfect. He just wanted it to be done.
Just a second. So Noah was trying to be careful.
Yes.
And you said you don't have to be so careful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what it boils down to?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was on the 29th.
Yes, correct.
So after that, he said he's not going to work for you anymore.
Correct.
Now, so I gather from that statement that since you were working there since the 23rd, you didn't feel as if you had to be so careful to detail.
That is.
I mean, that would follow from what you just said to me. If Noah wanted to be more careful to detail, you say, oh, no, you don't have to be so careful to detail. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And goodbye, which is what this says. So I have to assume, conjure up in my mind, that if you don't have to, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be such a great job. It can be, as my great-grandmother used to say, there's a difference between a schmearer and a painter.
That's right.
Now, I don't know who would understand that except another Jewish grandmother. But you understand the connotation. You can smear paint. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter who can smear paint on a wall. But if I want something professionally done, I try to get a painter.
I told Chris I was not a professional.
Just a second. You see, that's my problem with Mr. Ricks. If you want something done right, get a man, not a boy. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, if I wanted somebody to work on one of my cars, I would not get somebody off the street who was selling popcorn at a concession stand and say to them, by the way, my car over there needs a new battery. Now, would I take my car back to the same dealership? Maybe not, because they're very expensive. But would I find somebody who at least had a referral, a recommendation? I have a 20-unit apartment complex that was empty. You want to use it as a business. You don't hire 2 schmearers to go and take care of your property. But you have to, if you didn't like their work, fire them. And if their work was not complete and only 3 units were touched, which I don't think that they argue with. So far, that's correct, Mr. Hendrickson?
That is incorrect.
How many units did you
5.
paint? 5.
And I actually painted 7, but I didn't complete the last 2. I just did the trim in it.
So you completed 5 units out of 20.
Yes.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And you agreed to $3,000.
That's incorrect, Your Honor.
How much?
We did not have a meeting to talk about a payment until the 29th, and that was actually part of the reason that him and I were arguing. Chris and I and Noah met at a coffee shop, and we spoke about how much we would be getting paid. We agreed on a $3,000 price for the end of the month of July because Christopher was supposed to be going on a vacation until July 20th.
So the $3,000 was mentioned.
It was mentioned, and then he told me and Noah, Chris told me and Noah that on the 30th he would pay us half of what he was going to be paying us.
Just a second. You were hired to paint 20 units.
Yes, Your Honor.
Those apartments were complete, not satisfactorily to him, but now you both agree that the $3,000 price was mentioned for the 20 units.
Yes.
It would be $750 if they did 5 units.
That's all, $750. That would be $750 if you completed only a quarter of them. Okay. Did you pay them any money for painting, yes or no?
No.
Okay, good. So best case scenario for the painting is $750. And I haven't gotten to his counterclaim yet, but you have one more claim. And your claim is that Mr. Ricks vandalized your car by throwing paint on it.
Sure.
Tell me when that happened.
We woke up July 20th, 2020.
7:20. Where did you wake up?
At our house, our apartment. Hot Springs,
Okay,
Arkansas.
tell me what happened.
I woke up to my car being splattered with the same color paint that we were using in his apartments.
Okay, so your car had paint on it when you woke up. Did you see anybody do it?
No, ma'am.
Just let me take a look at the photograph. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so no one saw this, but you say that there is a video that you have. I assume, Mr. Ricks, unless you want to tell me that you did, in fact, throw paint primer on his car.
I absolutely did not.
Okay, and you did not see anybody throw paint primer on the car. But you say there was a video. Noah stated that he has video from his apartment complex pointing right at Noah's vehicle.
I think the police put that in there because they had interviewed.
So there is no video?
No, ma'am.
And you did not witness this?
No, ma'am.
And other than thinking that this paint primer was a result of actions and retaliation for something that you did, do you have any witness that saw him do that?
No, ma'am.
I have to see proof that the defendant had anything to do with this car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Did you take the car in to be cleaned?
Yes, I cleaned it myself just to avoid further damage.
Yes.
But after I cleaned it, I took it to the auto body shop to see what the actual repair.
Okay, do you have pictures of it after you cleaned it?
After we cleaned it, it looked somewhat like this. And then we had to take it to the body shop. They buffed out the rest of it for us.
So what you're telling me is you took it to an auto body shop, and the auto body shop...
They helped clean up the rest of it, but they still took off our top coat.
Okay, very good. Well, you have no proof he did it. So far, he owes you $750.
May I interject that he doesn't even own that car?
I don't care. I'm not giving him any money for the car. There's no proof you did anything to the car. Okay, I'm not going to get into filing a false ABC complaint with the sheriff, because he's not going to be able to prove to me that it's true other than by what he says are his own observations. He doesn't have anybody here who's under the age of 21 who's going to testify that you served him alcohol. So I'm not going to entertain that part of your claim. Money owed for slander, that I would like to see. That's your cross complaint. So far, plaintiff has $750 for painting 1/4 of the places that he was contracted to do.
This is the first document, and I had calls just pour in, wanting to know if I'd seen it. And
just a second. Don't tell me you had calls pouring in, sir, because that's hearsay. What's the date on this? This one that I'm reading. It says 1 day ago.
It was around the first couple of weeks of July.
Okay. I'd like you to tell me, Mr. Joyner, the conversation, where it took place and under what circumstances, when you had a conversation with Mr. Ricks about covering up certain hazards. I'd like to hear that.
What would you like to hear?
I'd like to hear where the conversation took place, exactly what you said to him and what he said to you.
Where it took place?
Yes, where it took place, exactly now.
I know the post about
a post.
Yeah.
We're on now a post. So I want you to tell me when you had the conversation, where you were, and what you said to him, mostly what he said to you, about covering up certain things with paint.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we were told to cover up holes and stuff with caulking and then paint over it. And then we were told that
Now look at me.
I was told to go declutter one of the units that had a bunch of old parquet tile, ceramic tiles piled high to the ceiling with old ceiling fans deteriorating.
That was the unit that was on site. Go ahead.
Right.
And?
So he told me that
I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to do in the apartment complex. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
There was a lot of terrible...
No. Just stop and think of what is the worst thing he told you to do, the worst instruction he gave you.
Pretty much that I should just do it without the proper protective...
No, that's general, sir.
Okay.
I asked you specific. You posted something about him, about his apartment complex, about the work that you were doing, and I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to make short shrift of or to cover up.
Water damage, black mold.
Okay, let's go to black mold. When did you have a discussion with him about black mold? Where were you?
He told me to declutter the apartment. So that would be Wednesday, June.
So there was one apartment that he told you to declutter. Okay, and that would be June what?
Monday, June 27th. I think that's what that...
Was he there in person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'd like you to tell me what he said to you and what you said to him.
Told me to go...
Look here.
Told me to declutter the unit, take out all of it, throw it away, and to just...
No, don't look over there.
To clean, just to clean it, basically.
To clean it.
So that it would be ready to be painted.
And?
I did. I cleaned it.
And?
I'm done.
You done?
I don't know what else to say. That's.
Well, I want you to clean it. Doesn't tell me anything about black mold.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous.
I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to ask out of me.
I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, tell me what he told you about black mold.
He didn't tell me anything about the black mold.
Great. And what did he tell you about rat feces?
Didn't tell me anything about rat feces. I handled all that stuff without
Shh. Then you did that all yourself. Well, in this posting you said, Chris, that would be you, wanted us to paint over chips, possible, dust, maybe, mold, never. He never told you that. That's what you just told me. Black mold, rat feces, and urine. He never told you to cover up those things. You may have done it, but according to you, he just said, clean it.
He had told me to cover up the mold that was in
I don't
the
believe that.
closets of the apartment.
Oh, I don't believe that. In a second. That's Mr. Joyner.
Yeah, it was Mr.
No,
Joyner,
this is
but
Mr. Joyner's
trying to communicate
post.
together.
And he never told him anything. According to him, he said, just clean it. You have the second post?
That one was taken down, and this is the second post that he reposted, and then his account got blocked because they don't allow that type of behavior. This is the next one, and this is where he claimed to be a bartender on Facebook, and he just took it down recently. It's been up there for months, and I never hired him for a bartender.
That's all right. I don't care. That's not important.
Okay.
What I'm concerned about is what he says that you told him to do, which you did not.
Right.
He acknowledges you did not. Now, you have no witnesses here.
I was going to bring one person, and she's got COVID.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You have
yes,
no
I have
witnesses
no one.
here.
I have no one, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. You were the posting person as far as covering up black mold, feces, and urine, and therefore to beware of Rick's Realty. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous because he never told you that. So.
But you never really cleared that. I'm sorry. You never really cleared it up. I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to ask out of me.
No, just a second.
It was
I don't care
told
what,
to me that I needed to take care of all that stuff and throw it away. Yes, ma'am. It was told to me that. That's why I posted. It was a warning as to so no one else would have to deal with that same stuff.
Very good. Very good. I'm ruling now, so now it's my time. I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch up. I find that by posting that he instructed you to cover up black mold, people responded to actually, and rat feces, I don't know how you cover rat feces and urine with paint, and to stay away from his place of business without cause, because what you told me was, he told me to clean it up, that's slanderous. And so on the counterclaim that he has for slander, I am awarding him $2,750. That's a net to him of $2,000 because your claim of $750 for wages is absorbed by his counterclaim. So on your claim, you get zero, zippity-doo-dah. I'm awarding him $2,000 for slander. We're done here. Thank you very much.
What about the damages,
We
Your
are
Honor?
finished. Hire a professional, Mr. Riggs. You want a schmearer, that's what you get.
This court is adjourned.
Regardless of terminology and how things got messed up, why would you expect someone to clean up rat feces, all of this stuff, and do it for free?
It's clear no good deed goes unpunished. I tried to help those kids.
Don't understand any of this, really.
Well, they were trying to extort money from me and not do work and be lazy and just get paid for work they didn't do.
We're trying to move on.
We're going to move on.
You kind of try to give people chances when they're down on their luck. I've always been a philanthropist, try to help people out, and sometimes you get burned.
First of all, if you're an employee and you're working either by the hour or by the day, you're not a weekly employee or bi-weekly salaried employee, you're supposed to keep track of the hours where you work, especially if you want to, if there is a potential of suing later for them.
As a plaintiff, that is your burden. I was interested to see that you were willing to take that information from the defendant, because if it were me, if the plaintiff didn't have it, that's not the defendant's burden to prove
that's
the
actually
plaintiff's
true.
case. So I knew you did it to sort of round out the sides of the case, but I think that if you as the plaintiff want to come here and ask the court for money, you better have your ducks in a row. And
Well, that's true. That was true. That was probably an error for me. Not that he got anything, but
we got where we needed to go.
we got where we needed to go. But that's true. It's not the defendant's burden.
Yeah.
Although the defendant acknowledged that he worked for him.
He did. Very forthcoming and honest. So, but that, again, played better for the defendant, as we saw in the ruling, that he was
You're
professional.
supposed to have your ducks in a row.
Yes, and as a plaintiff, you don't get any money if you can't even keep track of the hours that you work.
The second thing is that the call to alcohol and beverage, if you feel as if you're doing a public service by reporting behavior that you think could be potentially dangerous, I support that. But if you're doing it as a retaliatory act and you don't do it immediately, it's like reporting suspected child abuse. If you see a child being abused or neglected and you do nothing and wait a month until you have a fight with the person who is the abuser, that creates a suspicion that it's vindictive and there's a motive to lie.
Of course.
Because it wasn't done immediately.
And they sought another job from the same man after reporting him.
Right. To the defendant's detriment, in my eyes, is if you have a big apartment complex and you have guys who were in the jewelry business and didn't make it, then came to work for you in your theater and really weren't very good at that either, then I wouldn't hire them to house paint.
Yeah. That actually requires a skill.
Without any credentials. So I think that you have
Sister-in-law, Monique Blue, and her brother, Antonio Blue, for unpaid rent and window blinds.
Ms. Johnson, the defendant is your brother.
That is correct.
And his co-defendant, your brother's wife. You had a home that was located in what state?
California.
Several years ago, you decided to move out of state, I think to Arizona?
Yes.
And at that time, you discussed with your brother and his wife renting your home. You entered into a lease with them. Was it a 2-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was a written lease?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
That's a 2-year, and I also have a 6-month.
No,
One for six. Okay.
just the first lease first, because I'm old and I can only absorb a certain amount of facts at one time. It's a pretty straightforward lease. It's a lease for 24 months, starting the 1st of July, 2019, and terminating on July 1st, 2021. $1,600 a month. The state of Arizona. Ultimately, you ascertained that your health coverage, your lifetime health coverage, was not covered in the state of Arizona. You decided you wanted to move back to California. You don't even have to give a reason why you want to move back to California. You can move back to California into your house on July 1st, 2021. You understand that?
Yes.
Great. And you came back to California on what date?
I don't recall the exact date, but I also extended a 6-month.
I understand. When did you come back to California? In March. That's what you said here. I think in March.
Okay, right now I don't recall.
I think in March of 2022 is when you ultimately came back because they vacated sometime the beginning of March.
No, I came back prior to you.
Now, I'd like to see the extension of the lease for 6 months. Okay, so you acknowledge, Mr. and Mrs. Blue, that the 6-month extension that you both signed terminated on December 31st.
Yes.
Did you vacate the house on December 31st?
No, we hadn't found a place yet.
That's not her problem. That would be your problem. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st? On what date, sir, did you close on that property?
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago.
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in.
Antonio Blue, for unpaid rent and window blinds. Monique and Antonio are countersuing for harassment and invasion of privacy.
Okay. Did she give you permission to stay beyond December 31st?
No.
So you stayed beyond December 31st. Were you there in January? Is not an answer.
Yes.
Were you there in February?
Yes.
Were you there on March 1st?
Yes.
On March 2nd?
Yes.
On March 3rd?
Yes.
What day in March did you move out?
March 5th.
Did you pay rent in the month of January?
No.
February?
No.
March?
No.
Okay, that's what she's suing for.
Right.
Well, you have a defense for not paying rent for those 3 months, which you clearly occupied her premises. Who wants to tell me why you didn't pay rent?
We cleaned it up, and when we first moved in July 1st, it wasn't move-in ready.
I don't care. You lived there. Not only did you live there, you executed a second lease for another 6 months. You lived there from the beginning of the lease up until March 5th, which is 3 months beyond when you were supposed to be there. I'm waiting for a defense and not paying rent.
Because for July 2019, when we first moved in, the house was hideous. She had stuff in every room. We weren't able to move our stuff in.
Did you live there?
Yes, we had nowhere else to go.
I don't care. You had a choice. If the house wasn't in move-in condition, you break your lease, but you don't say at the end of the lease, by the way, when we were there 2.5 years ago, the house wasn't ready for us to move in. It wasn't in condition that we liked. We lived there anyway. So that's not an excuse for not paying rent at the other end. Anything else?
Yeah. She offered to give us the last month rent that we were there for free.
The last month?
The last month rent.
First. That's the month.
Okay.
Did you indicate to them that you would give them a month off the rent? Okay.
No, ma'am.
But she says that you did.
I would like to see her evidence as well.
No, just shh. No, she agreed to waive the final month's rent for the period of April 1st, 2022 to May 2nd, 2022. You were gone in March.
Right.
And your lease, for some reason, she agreed to waive rent for a month that you weren't there. She didn't waive January, February, or March. She agreed to waive it April 1, 2022.
For March.
Because you were there in March.
Okay.
If she was using the premises as a rental premises and you were leaving at the end of February, then she would have been able to rent her premises beginning March 1st. You don't move out until March 5th, the beginning of March. That means she needs a couple of days, or any landlord would need a couple of days to put the place in order and re-rent it. They wouldn't be able to re-rent until April. So you were there. Is there any reason you stayed until March 5th instead of... Just a second. You didn't let me finish the question. Is there any reason why you didn't move out the last day in February and instead stayed into March?
Because our house wasn't ready yet.
What do you mean it wasn't ready?
We wasn't ready to move in there yet.
What was wrong with it? Where did you move?
Victorville, California.
Okay. To what kind of property?
We bought a house.
Okay. When did you buy the house? What month?
We did close January something.
So you bought the house in January. Mm-hmm. When you inspected the house that you bought, did you buy it furnished or unfurnished?
Unfurnished.
Did you have furniture in the plaintiff's house?
Yes.
You'll give her the on that property.
February?
No, don't.
February.
On what date, sir, did you close on that property? It's probably in the record.
I can't remember offhand.
We're not talking about so long ago. Is there an address?
February 7th is listed as the closing date.
2/7. So the house became yours on February 7th. That sound familiar? That's what it says.
Yes.
Well, then you had 3 weeks to move in, to get it ready.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
All right. Fine. So you owe her 3 months' rent at $1,600 a month.
What about the renovations we did to our house?
Who cares? I live in a place for a couple of years, and I make changes to the place, things that she did, and this is not a rent-to-buy agreement. This is a straight tenancy agreement.
We were supposed to buy her house.
There are agreements that are rent-to-buy that list what the rental is and what the ultimate purchase price will be, and whether or not you can deduct the rent that you've paid or a percentage of it from the total purchase price, or whether you cannot. This is a straight rental agreement. So if you made improvements in the house, if you painted it, if you put in new carpeting to make it more comfortable for yourself, you don't get reimbursed for that because there's nothing in your lease that requires her to reimburse you for any improvements that you make in the house. You're bound by the four corners of the contract that you signed.
Well, what about how the conditions that we moved in?
Well,
that she doesn't.
Yes, by living there for 2.5 years, without, I assume, unless you can show me, without, I assume, a written complaint to her. Do you have that? Do you have a written complaint? No. I asked your son.
I have pictures.
$4,800.
My mother's deceased, and it would actually hurt my mother to see us in court today. And that's my only regret, that I had to do that.
We're done.
The bottom line is, I am back in my house.
So I had a thought about that case because going through college, I think the first time I saw a lease was my sophomore year or so when I moved off campus. And my dad, luckily enough, was there to help me look over it and sort of teach me what a lease was, what the different sections meant, what I should really be looking out for. So in my mind, it would make sense for colleges to offer a basic life skills course to teach young incoming freshmen how to read a lease, how to negotiate on your behalf.
Did they offer that class at all to undergraduates?
It seems specified to business students or closed off to certain majors, just to have.
For unpaid rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. you purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent
Yes.
and for property damage.
That's correct.
They are no longer there.
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property, did no painting?
Just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020.
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there.
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. I have to see them. Yes, you. I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand
it. Blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
When you, just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for 1.5 years before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that 1.5 years.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for 1.5 years even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub
4, including the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the baby. And how old's the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No, this is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes, I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just
doesn't say
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah, I'm not sure about
I'm
it.
Not sure.
I don't
But-
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Uno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Uno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was. It was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting,
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a.
Okay.
Yes, to
So you
$1,000.
had no lease anymore and he wanted to raise the rent. Okay. I believe you. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before.
Yes, that was the first one, but I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you?
And Kevin Jackson, for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
And in what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say.
Do you remember, Mr. Uno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were at that time looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house. Even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wished to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We.
So if you didn't find a place
we decided
in December,
we was trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume they paid rent in September.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes.
In October?
Yes.
Yes.
They paid rent in October.
Yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November.
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021.
Yes.
No, you cannot. You stopped paying rent in December of 2021. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice, because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over.
Okay.
He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them, I think. I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes, the same thing before he took over. Everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty, They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, you know, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment because he lived downstairs from us. Talked to him about it. He came upstairs and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent. And then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and, you know, and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Yuno. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay, not rent that duplex for substantially more money.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, you know, well, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us.
Okay, so let's say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? You said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Does your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a month do you receive, Ms. Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent. And he's the landlord. And he's allowed to do that if you're going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the premise was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like kind of like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house, but it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? He just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
But,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're...
Isaac Yuno claims his tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say, minimally $750.
$3,750.
$3,750. Now, Mr. Yuno, the only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went, and I missed it, and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, while you occupied his premises, you, your furniture, your children, I don't care what it is, that's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were
yes.
constructively evicted.
Yes, he...
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until...
Just a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before, I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even
pay rent for November.
Yeah.
You didn't pay the prior landlord, and you didn't pay him. So far you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
But to go back to the November, So during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No.
Just you, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay, and the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got the toy out.
So the toilet was broken by your son. Okay, so now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual, and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up until the next year, and it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I had to collect monetary judgment through the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And the destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Oh, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people and want to have a whole bunch of dispossessed homeless people, it came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants, who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting the landlord. These people were simply taking advantage of a legal loophole that was created for them. He was in the restaurant business, which, as we know, was one of the toughest hit by COVID.
Right.
She was on a fixed income that wouldn't be enough to cover, well, barely enough to cover the rent on its own. And then they have to support themselves, feed themselves. They have 2 children. So I'm sympathetic towards the take.
Elvis Bentley for moving costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2106, Bentley versus Bentley.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Bentley, this is your sister.
Yes.
The case is relatively simple. Your mom passed away a couple of years ago. There was a house full of furniture that belonged to your mother. According to what I've read, and this is broad strokes, according to what I read, your sister, what's your first name?
Kelvis.
Put your mother's property in a storage unit.
Excuse me. It was already in storage.
Who had put it into storage?
My mom put it in storage. My mom was terminally ill, and she put it in storage 3.
So it would have been in storage since August of 2018.
Correct.
From August till November, who paid for the storage unit?
I have been paying it.
And how much is it every month?
Right now it's $209, but it was $182 in the beginning.
But about $200 a month, and it's been 3 years.
Yes, I've been paying that every month.
This is what your case is about. You say that you gave your soul to disperse your mother's property.
Yes, but the amount is incorrect.
What's the amount?
I gave her $800.
Okay, $800.
Yes.
In order to get your mother's furniture to where you live, so that you could separate the furniture and the family could take what they wanted or needed of the property, correct?
That's correct.
Good. Then COVID struck. Your sister didn't use that money to travel, to hire truckers, to move the furniture, and you want that money back.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the whole case. Okay. Just for my own information, you do expect when that furniture, that's the plan, once it all comes back.
That's not correct. I didn't want anything out of the storage but pictures.
Pictures?
Yeah.
Well, pictures of things.
Yes, that's it.
Pictures of what?
There's a picture of me and my mother. That's all I wanted.
Did you tell that to your sister?
Yes, I did.
Did she?
No.
How many sisters are there?
It's only 2 of us now. It was 4, 2 deceased.
Did your mother have any other property?
My clothes, pictures, yes, things like that, yes.
Is there any property in that storage unit that you want?
Well, I'm holding her stuff because it's sentimental. I mean, I can get it, I wouldn't mind having it, but it's really, she got a lot of sentimental stuff in there, so that's why I've been paying.
Furniture?
Yes, furniture, clothes.
Furniture?
Pictures, everything,
Okay.
Yes.
How far away is the storage unit from where you live?
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How far away?
10-hour drive. We stay in Michigan, and the storage is in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Anybody that you know live there close to the storage unit?
My aunt and my cousin does.
And this picture that you want, do you know where it is?
It's
any of the other property?
No.
You two are the heirs, is that right?
We have a brother.
Does he have, as far as you know, any interest in any of your mother's property?
No. When my mom passed, it was me, my niece, and my older brother there at the time of death. And so he got everything he wanted out, and he gave me the key because I was the next to older one because she wasn't there. So he was like, so y'all do what y'all want.
And get it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'd like you to tell me about this money that she gave you. Do you remember when she gave you the $800?
She gave me the money, I want to say May of 2020.
And can you tell me what the conversation was when she gave you the money?
Here is some money to go towards going to get the things, And so I told her, well, I'll find a way to go get it. I didn't never give her a designated time, but during that time, that was COVID, so no one was able to go. And so I was gonna go this year because I just signed the papers to go and go get the stuff, but no one still was able to go. She never once said that this was money loaned to go get it.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she had designated it to go and get the property.
Yes.
And you didn't use it to go and get the property.
I used it towards
the intended purpose, which was to go rent a truck, movers, and bring the property to where you both live. Okay, and she did give you $800.
Yes.
Okay, and Miss Bentley, you're prepared to sign a document that indicates that the only property you want from storage is a photograph of you and your mother any other heirs that have a legitimate claim on any of that property, but you want nothing else.
That's fine.
Reasonable?
Fine.
Perfect. I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800 with the proviso that the plaintiff will, in fact, sign that document indicating she wants nothing but one photograph from the storage unit.
I gave her $150 back.
Did she give you $150 back?
She did give me $150 back.
You paid her back. So she goes, you're $650. Judgment for the plaintiff, $650. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It was my mother's stuff. I just was trying to get the stuff. It was in storage.
Still love her.
Those look like two nice sisters. And I think part of that problem is the intervention of COVID, which really turned everybody's life upside down.
Especially family units.
Family units, because I think that was the intention, that she was going to pay for it to all be brought up, use that money, and then they would go through the property and decide who wanted what and what would be disposed of. It's
Suffering after a dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2139, Stevens versus Stevens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Although your names sound the same, they're spelled differently, and you are clearly not related based upon this case. You live in the same general area.
Yes.
Okay. Could you step up? Tell me your name.
Emily Feringer.
This is your daughter.
Yes.
How long have you been living in your house?
8.5 years.
How old are you?
22.
Tell me what you do.
I work at a bakery right now, and I'm a full-time college student.
Where do you go to school?
Idaho State University.
You were out walking the family dog.
Yes.
Family has one dog?
Just one, yeah.
What kind of dog?
It's a miniature schnauzer.
Weighs about 10, 12 pounds?
Yeah, around there, 15-ish.
How old is the dog?
He is 9.
You've had him since he was a puppy?
Yes.
This case has to do with injuries that your dog sustained.
Yes.
And the payment of vet bills by the defendant, who you allege has 2 dogs unleashed that attacked your dog while you were walking.
Correct.
Him.
Just one dog.
One dog.
One.
One dog attacked our dog.
You have a pit bull.
Yes, ma'am.
What color?
White and brown.
How old?
She's 5.
Is that the only dog you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what date you were walking the dog that this incident happened.
July 26, 2021.
Time.
Around 8 p.m.
Dark?
No.
Still light out.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you walking in the neighborhood?
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I passed the defendant's house, and I reached the end of the sidewalk.
Your dog's name is what?
Jax.
On a leash?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always walk the dog on a leash?
We do.
Tell me what happened.
I was walking down the sidewalk, and I reached the end of the sidewalk. I was about to cross the street, and...
Do you have a picture or diagram?
I do. I have
where
a
this
diagram.
happened? May I see it, please? Oh, okay. There it is. Would you go over to the diagram so that you can point directly and I can understand where this happened? From where the dog came?
It seemed to be out in the street when it approached me.
So it didn't come from the defendant's house, it came from the street?
Yes. It had been on the left-hand side of me. And then the pit bull latched onto my dog on its leg.
What color pit bull?
Brown and white.
Was there any fighting or a scuffle before?
No, ma'am. It just ran up to me and it latched onto my dog's leg and it picked my dog up and was yanking it around in the air. And it was very loud and my dog was squealing a lot and crying out very loudly. So I yanked his leash so that I didn't have to bend down and get hurt myself. And I picked him up and I ran back.
So you yanked him up by his leash?
I did.
Okay. Did he have what kind of a collar on? A regular collar or one of those harnesses?
We have both, so I'm not sure which one he was wearing at that time, but I believe he was wearing the collar.
Just the collar?
Yes.
So you lifted him up by the collar?
Yes.
Did you see where the dog went?
I do not remember. I think the pit bull ran back into the defendant's household.
But you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
What did you do next?
We took the dog to the animal hospital.
Okay. You can go back now. Stand close to you.
Sorry.
Had you ever seen this dog before?
I have.
Where had you seen the dog before?
I've seen the pit bull in multiple places around the neighborhood. I've seen it across...
That same dog?
Yes. I've seen it across the street in that across the street neighbor's yard, and I've also seen it in my yard, and it's also been next to my chain link fence before.
Did you or you, Ms. Stevens, ever have a conversation with the defendant about the dog being on?
About 10 times.
Have you ever said anything to your mother about seeing this dog outside?
I have.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yes, ma'am. May I show you on the on the diagram? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all.
No, don't tell me first of all.
Okay.
Were you there at approximately
Yes.
8 p.m.
Yes, I
on
was.
July 26th?
Correct, I was.
Okay, where were you? Show me where you were.
I was right here. I was loading a fridge into my home. I had my dog right here in the middle of the driveway, chained to the fence, okay? She came from across the crosswalk here, because I have a witness as well to show. She came from the crosswalk with her dog in front of her. She came across right into my driveway. The dog went into my driveway, and my dog went up to her, and they began to fight.
You're going like this.
Uh-huh, yes.
You're going like this. I don't want you to go like this.
Okay.
So your dog was on a chain.
Yes, ma'am.
A chain that extended almost to the end of your driveway.
Correct.
So show me exactly with your finger.
Okay, yes.
Where you say this confrontation between the pit bull and the schnauzer took place.
Right here, ma'am.
Well, you're pointing to about a foot. Well, now you keep moving your finger.
Right here.
You know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood, unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off the leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Audrey Stevens claims her neighbor, Heather Stevens, owes for vet bills after her dog was injured by Heather's pit bull.
Now you're moving your finger. So you're saying it's right at the end of your driveway.
Right, it occurred right here.
Well, now your finger is at a different place, madam. I'm
Well-
just letting you know your finger moves up the driveway.
Right, I'd say right here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You know that I don't believe that.
I know you don't believe that,
You,
Honor, but
you
that's
know,
what happened.
you know that I don't believe that your dog hasn't been out and about in the neighborhood. Do you know that I don't believe that? I don't think she's lying to me that your dog's been out and about in the neighborhood. Unleashed.
No, ma'am. I don't let my dog off the leash.
We do have pictures of the dog as well, if you'd like to see those.
Oh, do you?
We
Yes.
You mean out and about?
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
And this is after.
Shh, shh.
Sorry.
I don't care before or after.
Yeah.
She just said, I don't let my dog go out without a leash.
Well, this is the injury.
Ms. Stevens, these pictures belie the fact that your dog is out, leashed only. Do you want to see the photograph?
Yes, ma'am, please. Yes, Your Honor, I do see that, but I was outside with my dog at that time.
I don't care whether you were outside with your dog or not. You said your dog is never out without a leash. That's not true. That's not true. Were you a witness to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Be very careful. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your name.
My name is Karen Brennan.
Are you a neighbor?
No, I am a friend.
A friend of whose?
Of Heather Stevens.
Go ahead.
Well, on that day.
On what day?
On July 26, I was helping Heather with the fridge.
With the what?
With the refrigerator. And I was approaching the driveway, the side of the house.
And?
And I looked over and I saw the little dog and it caught my eye.
You saw what?
The little dog. And it caught my eye because every time before, anytime I would put the dog out, Miss Stevens' dog, that little dog, if it was in the backyard, would continually bark at.
Just a second. Did you put the dog out that day?
No, I did not that day. But I recognized the dog.
So you did not put the dog out?
No.
That day?
Not that day.
Okay. What time did you get to Miss Stevens' house?
Mid-afternoon.
What's her dog's name?
Lily.
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon?
When we were...
Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon? That's either a yes or a no. When you were there. That's either a yes or a no. Was Lily chained to the fence all afternoon when you were there? You said you got there mid-afternoon. This happened at 8 o'clock. Was the dog chained to the fence all the time you were there? Yes or a no?
No.
Or I don't know? No.
No.
Where was the dog?
In the backyard.
Until what time?
Until around seven-ish or so. I don't know the exact time, but it was mid-evening.
Okay. And what happened at that time when the dog was moved from the backyard outside of the backyard? Who moved the dog?
We went to go get the refrigerator.
No. Who moved the dog?
Heather did.
She took the dog from the backyard.
Yes.
Just a second. To the backyard to the driveway. To the driveway, because that's where she pointed out that the dog was chained to the driveway fence.
Yes. When we came back from we went to go get the refrigerator.
Just a minute. Well, you didn't tell me, so you left the house.
Yes.
What time did you leave the house?
Mid-afternoon. It was like...
What time?
Approximately 4 or 5.
Okay. And the dog at that time was where?
With us in the vehicle.
So you had the dog in the car, so the dog was in the backyard.
Yes.
And then from the backyard, the dog went with you in the car.
Correct.
And then what?
And then we picked up the refrigerator, and we came back, and then she had chained her.
Okay, so from the car, the fence, according to the defendant, sort of midway up the driveway.
Correct.
Is where she chained the dog.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Then where did you go?
And then I went to go get the dolly and bring it around so we could get the fridge
Okay,
out.
And where did Miss Stevens stay?
She was in the driveway.
And it was when you were coming out of the backyard that you saw Miss Stevens in the driveway?
Yes.
And saw the little dog?
Yes.
She was in the driveway. Was she next to the dog? Go over there and point out where she was, would you, in the driveway?
She was...
She, Miss Stevens.
That Miss Stevens, yes.
Your friend?
Yes.
Was right in the middle of the driveway, near where the dog was chained?
Yes.
And show me where the defendant's house is, because you had been in the house earlier that day. Point on that diagram where the house is.
Right here.
Where it says defendant.
Yes.
That's the whole house. And where's the front door?
Right here.
Up there. And where's the porch on the front door?
Right there.
Okay. Now, that's not where she was. She was in the driveway.
Correct.
Okay, now go back. Now I'm going to read to you what your friend Miss Stevens wrote and swore to in her answer. I was standing on the porch, maneuvering the fridge inside, and I saw a little dog sniffing around and walking up my driveway. She said she was on the porch.
Well, she was back.
That's where she said she was, on the porch. I know the plaintiff's dog is a barker since it has come to the backside of my property and barked at my dog through the fence. The dog walked all the way up the driveway to where my dog was. Now, you want to think back? Miss Stevens says she was standing on the porch. You were very certain she was standing mid-driveway right near her dog. Which one? Was she on the porch, which is all the way at the other end?
Yes.
Or was she mid-driveway?
Mid-driveway.
She was mid-driveway. So yeah. Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch. I didn't look at a police report. I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told two divergent stories, two totally different stories. She was your witness.
Audrey Stevens is accusing her neighbor, Heather Stevens, of losing control of her pit bull. Heather claims Audrey's dog ran onto her property.
So Miss Stevens lied when she said she was on the porch. That's what she says in her answer. I was on the porch when this happened. You understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
Sit. Can I see your vet bills, please?
Your Honor, I have a video of my dog. Can we present the video that I have brought?
You mean for that day?
Yes, ma'am. No, not for that day. No, not for that day, but just to show you that my dog is not vicious. That she likes to play with little dogs.
Clearly not on this day. She didn't like to play with other dogs.
That dog is constantly barking at my dog in the backyard, and that's the only... My dog loves dogs. I have obedient record.
Miss Stevens.
Yes.
I want you to understand something.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether the Schnauzer is a barker or not a barker, I told you, I didn't believe you when you told me that her dog was off leash. I didn't believe that. Either you or your witness lied. I don't know which one. So I'm going to have to assume it was your witness. Do you want me to assume it was your witness or you? So one of you lied. She says you were in a totally different place. She was coming out from the backyard. That's where she was. She had gone to get the dolly. You said you were maneuvering the refrigerator. It was a very hectic day.
Yeah.
And I have photographs of your dog, despite the fact that you tell me that your dog is never off leash, always on leash. I have 3 photographs taken 3 different times of your dog being off leash. Now, there's no question that your dog caused the injuries to the dog.
This has been going on for over a year in court. They dismissed it in criminal court, and there's a reason why they dismissed it.
Just a second.
Yes.
You're going to try to tell me why they dismissed the case in criminal court? You have a document. I mean, I understand that they filed a criminal case against you.
There was a criminal case that was dismissed, Your Honor.
That's okay. That has nothing to do with this civil proceeding. You know, somebody may not want to put you in jail because you let your pit bull roam around without a leash. Somebody may not want to put you in jail, but you are clearly responsible for this dog's injuries. You are. If you have a pit bull, and pit bulls can be dangerous dogs, they can turn on a dime and cause serious injury. Pit bull lovers, I don't want to hear from you. I've been going through it for 25 years. Some of them are nice. Some of them are not nice. But when they're not nice and they turn, they have configurations that can cause a great deal of injury. One killed a woman who was babysitting for it.
I understand you.
So you do understand.
I believe, may I say something? I believe that a dog is how it was raised, okay? I've raised that dog from a baby. She's never been mean like that. That dog that lives next door, which is Miss Stevens' dog, yaps at my dog every single day. She goes outside, yaps at her.
So what you're telling me is your dog... So if what you're telling me is that your dog had the right to be aggravated because the dog yaps at her all the time, that's not a reason to... You do that regularly, and you can't do that.
Your Honor, can I also add that I did have a brief interaction with Miss Stevens on the day that it occurred, and it seemed like she did come out of the street with the dog. I don't believe she was in the driveway. She offered help for me.
She did?
Yes, before I went home.
And
where was
not
she?
To interrupt, but we also have video of her acknowledging fault with the officer's body cam video.
What is that?
They have a body cam on when he was talking to her, when she said she's really sorry and she's going to pay the vet bill.
Oh, may I see that, please?
For a walk. We were moving in a fridge.
Oh, okay.
And she jumped out of the car when she seen that little dog, because I was getting ready to get in the car, and
Gotcha.
right on the corner here.
Okay.
So were they just across the street then?
No, they were right here.
They were just right here on the sidewalk. Okay.
I'm going to pay the bill, I know, and whatever I got to do.
Yeah, so she's down at the clinic now.
It was a bite on him, on the shoulder, I think.
On the shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was just protecting me.
Sure.
That's all. And I'll pay the bill.
That you're responsible
And I want to
for, so-
apologize.
Sure.
I feel bad. I do feel bad about it. I do love dogs. I'm a dog lover. And I do feel bad. And I believe she just said, the defendant just said that she was in the street when that happened. It was in my driveway that happened, Your Honor. I'm just saying, we want to be honest.
Was your dog on a chain?
My dog was on a chain, Your Honor. Another thing, I never got my side of the story added to that at all. It was all one-sided. The whole police report was one-sided, Your Honor.
I didn't look at a police report,
I have
madam.
one right here.
Just a second. I didn't look at a police report. I listened
It's
to
all
your.
one-sided.
I listened to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I listened to your witness.
Yes.
And you and the witness that you brought told 2 divergent stories, 2 totally different stories. She was your witness.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. I wasn't trying to.
Very, very good. Okay. Pain and suffering, unfortunately, is not yours. If you had had injury to yourself, and I think that the law is a little crazy there, but we can gauge pain and suffering for an animal. Anyway, your vet bills were $435.
Your Honor, we just added that just because,
I understand.
Blatant disregard and the dog's still out all the time.
Oh, no, excuse me. The total with tax was $441. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It's been a struggle just because of how long it's been going on.
It was a crazy day.
The dog almost got to our dog's leg bone and broke it.
Because the dog is always jumping at my dog.
It was pretty scary.
So it surprised me that happened.
He was bleeding and everything.
She's not vicious whatsoever.
We ran him up to the hospital.
The animal control never came in my house.
I had a feeling that Judy would see right through her, so.
I love dogs, and I felt sorry for the little dog.
I'm happy about the settlement and how we got our money.
I'm not even going to get on my soapbox with regard to dogs that are potentially dangerous. There's no question that this lady has a dog that she's had from a puppy, and the dog has never caused her any difficulty. But there's also no question that she lets that dog out without a leash.
I mean, they had proof of different occasions of the dog out and about.
After this
after this incident.
After this incident.
So you can, I think that's also a great lesson, that you can feel bad and be an animal lover and want to take care of the bill. But if you don't take any subsequent remedial measures to fix your bad behavior that caused this great deal of injury, then I don't really believe you that you feel sorry or that you're a dog lover. Because,
well, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you knew what you had to do to ensure the safety of the dogs and other people in your neighborhood, and you chose not to do that. So
after it had already had an incident.
Exactly.
At least one.
Yeah.
Debit card charges, and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2131, Gutierrez versus George.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Gutierrez, this is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And who is this?
My grandmother.
And that's your daughter?
Yes.
I'm reading the complaint and the answer, and this is what your complaint is about. You claim that your mother had you falsely arrested, as a result of which you spent 4 months in jail. While you were in jail, it is your claim that your mother used a debit card of yours, I think $3,000 worth, and you had some belongings at her house that you want. I gather that you've had some problems in your own life. You have at least 3 children.
Yes.
Was the state ever involved in placing the children in foster care?
No.
And what about your daughter?
My daughter, yes.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 19 months.
At what point did the state become involved with your daughter?
In May of this year, May 18th of this year, when there was false allegations made against, when my mom refused to give me my daughter back.
In May, when you brought your daughter to your mother's house, when?
I called my brother on May 17th of 2022, and I asked him to babysit my daughter.
Your brother. And does your brother live with your mother?
Yes, he was staying with her at that time.
So on the 17th, you asked your brother, who was staying with your mother, if he would babysit for your daughter. Where were you going?
I was needing to go to Fresno, and I had just received my income tax check. So I needed to go to Fresno, and I was on foot because my car was impounded the day prior.
Were you going alone?
To Fresno, yes.
So you brought your daughter on the 17th of May to your mother's house, and your brother was supposed to watch him, according to you, while you went to Fresno.
Watch, yeah, he met me down the street, actually, because there's a restraining order, so I didn't actually go to the resident.
Who has a restraining order?
My mother has a restraining order on me.
Is the restraining order that she has against you a final order or a temporary order?
It's good for 3 fight of the court date. I didn't consent to anything.
Okay, so it was a default.
I don't know what that means.
It means you didn't show up and they entered a final order of protection in favor of your mother. So you're not permitted to go to her home.
Right.
Since that's not really the subject of this, I don't have to get into it. In any event, you went on the 17th, you dropped your child off at your mother's house, your brother was there, and then what happened?
I finally got to Fresno, I got a ride, I got to the check cashing place. It literally took me...
Don't tell me, I'm not interested in that. 17th, you dropped the child off. You were supposed to pick the child up when?
That evening.
On the 17th?
Yes.
And did you?
I showed up it was a little before 10. I showed up, I called my brother, I said, I'm down the street. He was like, yeah, I'll be right there.
10 o'clock at night?
It was almost, ma'am, I was on foot. And
it's just, I asked you 10 o'clock at night.
It was right before 10, yes.
Okay.
When I got there, I called him. It had been about 15 minutes had gone by, and I called him back, and I said, where are you at? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Mom won't let me leave with the baby. My mother instinct kicked in, and I went in like fight or flight, and I walked down to my mom's house, and I knocked on the door and was asking for my daughter. I finally came to my...
Okay, so when your brother said that to you, instead of going to the police, you violated the order of protection.
I ended up leaving and calling the sheriff.
Okay, but you didn't. You went...
Of
So
course,
you
yes.
went
I
to
was going
the-
for my daughter. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30?
Yes, I finally realized that about 5 minutes of being at the house, I was like, okay, you need to leave. So I left because she wouldn't open the door to give me my daughter. I left. I called the sheriff, and so I told them the situation. So they had walked down to my mother's and let her know, told her that if she did not, that she needed to get my daughter back. But because it was late, the baby was already asleep, and so the cops that came back down to me, and they said, look, we don't, because they knew me.
Whatever. I'm allowing you to give me a certain amount of hearsay so that I can make this story make sense.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? But don't tell me because they knew you, what they thought.
Yes, ma'am.
You were told to come back in the morning.
Yeah, the agreement was that between my mom and the sheriff was that I could pick up Malia in the morning. The sheriff told me to call before 6 o'clock in the morning before he got off his shift, and that he would come back out and do another standby. The next morning came. Between me and my grandma, I had us call my mom. And
No, just a second. What does that mean between you and your grandma? Your agreement was you were supposed to call the sheriff. The sheriff, according to you, before
I called
6.
my grandma.
No, not the grandma. The agreement was you weren't supposed to call your grandma. You were supposed to call
Right,
the
but I
sheriff.
needed a ride. I needed a ride. So I called my grandma to have her come pick me up.
Just a second. Where were you?
I was staying at a friend's house. I didn't live in Selma.
Just a second. You were staying at what friend's house?
The sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else.
Kimberly Gutierrez claims her mother, Rhonda George, owes for debit card charges and personal belongings.
You were staying at what friend's house?
My friend Isaiah's.
Isaiah.
Yes, I stayed the night there waiting for my daughter.
Just a second. Isaiah. Isaiah what?
Bonilla.
And what is your relationship with
He's my
him?
best friend. He's been my best friend since high school.
Where are you living now?
I live with my grandmother right now since I was released.
Full time?
Right now, yes.
What do you mean right now, yes?
I'm in the process of getting my own place.
Okay, so you called your grandmother and then?
Called the sheriff.
And then?
Waited for the sheriff to respond.
And then?
The sheriff did not respond for a few hours.
Okay, so you were waiting for the sheriff to respond. The sheriff is, according to you, 19 months old? 19 months old. And she had prior to that been living with you?
Yeah, she was living with me all the time, yes.
She was living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now let's get back to this arrest that you had. According to your papers, your daughter was with you up until that time. What time did she wake up in the morning?
Usually she wakes up between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, well, then could you tell me why, if she wakes up between 7:30 and 8, why you would even contemplate picking her up before 8 o'clock in the morning?
Because one of my issues was with certain officers that would have been responding, and the officer that responded the night of the incident, he told me if you wanted me to be the officer to respond, you need to call me before I get off my shift.
Fine, but he didn't respond to you. But according to you,
no.
he didn't respond to you.
No, it was
so
a different
then my
officer.
question to you is,
They did respond at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And did what?
It was a horrible mess.
Well, he did what?
They responded. When they responded, he showed up. The officer told me that he did not want to be there. He said, if I have my way, you'll never see your daughter again. And I looked at him and I said, wow. Okay.
What do you mean you looked at him? Where were you when you looked at him?
I was right next to him, but I just...
Where, at the precinct or at your house?
No, down the street from my mom's.
Okay, so he responded to you when you were down the street at your mother's house, and he said, I'm not getting involved in this, and if I had my way, you would never have your daughter. And so what did you do?
So at that point, my grandma pulled up, and I told him, I said, your assistance is no longer needed, and that my grandma could just get my daughter. And he says, well, you already called me. The deputy did. So I said, okay, whatever. He asked me if I had somewhere to live, and I said yes, and whatever. And so he went down to my mom's. When he went down to my mom's, he was supposed to just go down there and get my daughter. When he was taking too long, I could walk so far this way, and I could swim very well, okay? So I just imagined what was being said about me. Well, I guess the back door is screwed and nailed shut at the house. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's not important.
Yeah. So anyways, my best friend went over the back fence.
What do you mean your best friend?
Isaiah Bonilla.
Oh, so you brought Isaiah with you?
He went...
Just a second. So you have your grandmother, and then you've got Isaiah, your best friend, also to go to your mother's house.
Yes, ma'am. He got my daughter.
Isaiah brought her to where you were.
Yes.
And then what happened?
I started walking back towards Isaiah's house. When I started walking back towards Isaiah's house, my grandma pulled up in her car and she was like, are you ready to go get your car out of the impound lot? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And so I got in her back seat with my daughter. When I got in the back seat, I got in the middle. Well, then she was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Your mom's over there saying a whole bunch of stuff to the deputies, so I don't know what's going to happen. And so I was like, well, I got to go get my stuff from Isaiah's. So I go to jump back out the car. As I go to jump back out the car.
But just a second. Now you have your daughter.
Because I needed my wallet. My bag was at Isaiah's. My purse and everything was at Isaiah's. I was going to go back and pick it up. Well, right when we were going to go back, the sheriff came, got behind us, and tried to like pin us in, and my grandma went to take off.
So your grandmother was driving.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was trying to evade the police to go someplace else.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many police cars were involved?
One.
Were there ever any more than one police car?
Once we got to the police department, of course, there's a police department.
No, I'm talking about the number of police cars. So there's a police car now.
Like coming behind us? No. It was just one.
It was just one?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were accelerating to get there? Was the police car siren on?
No.
Well, how did you know that he was trying to pull you over?
Because he tried to hit her car.
Oh, that would give you a clue. So you're telling me he tried to hit your grandmother's car without notifying you in any way to pull over?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I spent 4 months in jail and I beat my case. I went to trial and beat my case. Everything was dismissed.
I'm not responsible if you and your grandmother were arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in May.
Yes, ma'am.
And now uncross your arms. And now we're in December.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the same year.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're out of jail.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been out of jail for about?
Since August 25th.
Who does your daughter live with?
Right now, she's with the mentor. She's my ex-husband's aunt, ma'am.
And who placed her with your ex-husband's aunt?
I did.
Not the court?
No, I requested her.
Does the child's great aunt have guardianship?
No,
custody?
I'm getting my daughter back, ma'am.
But for the last 3 months, she's been with this aunt.
Right, because Child Protective Services did get involved, and Child Protective Services, I've been doing everything that...
Well, that's what I asked you. I asked you whether Child Protective Services
Child Protective Services did get involved with my daughter, yes.
Did? That's what I assumed.
And I've been drug testing, I've been
doing...
Just
a second.
Yes,
That's what I assumed, that Child Protective Services was involved. And so if Child Protective Services are involved, then they are overseeing the child's placement with the aunt. You have an ongoing case.
Yes, ma'am.
Probate court.
No, not probate.
Which one? Family court?
Family court, yes.
When was the case opened with regard to your daughter in the family
May
court?
May 18th, the day I got arrested, ma'am.
And that child became involved with the foster care system in May. Okay, so your grandmother also spent a little time in jail. How much?
2 weeks.
I quite frankly don't understand your case.
While I was in jail, Your Honor, while I was incarcerated, my mom had all my debit cards, my ID. She had went and actually, because of me getting arrested, she had went to Isaiah's and picked up all of my stuff.
You mean, just a second. Let me understand this. It is your claim that the reason that you had to go to Isaiah's house was to get your pocketbook. Isaiah, clearly, from what you tell me, knew of the problem because he was part of this little conspiracy to get your daughter out of the house and was at the back of the house to pick up your daughter who was being put over the fence. So why would Isaiah give your mother?
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins, okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now.
Kimberly Gutierrez is accusing her mother, Rhonda George, of wrongfully using her debit card and keeping her belongings.
So why would Isaiah give your mother?
Because she went over there with a baseball bat and busted out his windows. And the reason why all of my things were at my mother's was because I hadn't lived at my mom's for over a year.
What your case is about
is my belongings.
You claim that your mother went over and got your wallet from Isaiah's because I asked you what you were doing here. I certainly am not looking into the allegations of false arrest. It sounds as if you did the absolute wrong thing in trying to regain your daughter, whose custody, actually, you lost at a dispositional hearing and was determined to be a dependent child and placed in foster care. That's what happened here.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not even addressing your claims of false arrest.
Okay,
what you did was actually the wrong thing. I said, so what are you suing for? Now, you said
my belongings,
okay.
my
What,
money.
Just a second. What money?
She used my CalFresh, which is my EBT food stamps, and my CalWorks, which is my cash aid through the welfare department.
Just a second. So you're suing her for taking your food stamps and your welfare check?
Right.
Just a second. Your food stamps and your welfare check.
And this is the statement from my tax return of all the money that was on there.
On where?
On my debit card. It had over $3,000 of my belongings that was at her house.
Just a second. You haven't lived in your mother's house for...
I moved back to my mother's in the
Just
beginning.
a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You hadn't lived in your mother's house, according to what you said to me. Whitney, was it a year ago? Didn't you say that you moved out of
My
your
mom
mother?
allowed me to come back.
Because there was an order of protection.
She had called me. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
Just a second. You hadn't lived in your mother's house. You said you were living with your grandmother. For how long were you living with your grandmother before May?
I said I was living with my grandmother right now. I was living in Fresno, ma'am.
I want to know what property you think...
My clothing, my husband's clothing, my daughter's bassinet. I had jewelry there. I had all of my clothing.
Why would all of your clothing be there? You were living with your grandmother.
I hadn't moved into my grandmother's until I got out of jail. I was living in Fresno. And my mom...
Just a second.
You're not letting me talk.
I'm not understanding your movements.
Okay, my mom kicked me out in 2021, okay? My daughter was just a few weeks old. My mom kicked me out due to her boyfriend.
She kicked you out?
Yes.
And?
When she kicked me out, I went through Marjorie Mason, and Marjorie Mason had placed me in hotels. I was placed in hotels for about 3 or 4 months, okay? And then it was about January of 21. I was at this time, I was pregnant with twins. They had genetic defects. On February 4th this year, I lost my twins, okay? And that was the first time I had contacted my mother because I was going through it, and I messaged her and I told her, I said, I really need my mom right now. If anything, I need my mom right now. My daughter had not seen my daughter. She was not a part of my daughter's life. I did not speak to my mother, nothing. So she made an agreement.
Do you have any of your daughter's property?
No.
Okay, now, let's talk about this card. Did you pick up her property from Isaiah? That's either a yes or a no. After the 18th of May.
Well, how do I answer that when I did pick up her property, but her cards were not in there? Her driver's license wasn't in there. Her food stamp card wasn't in there.
What were you doing at Isaiah's?
So she asked...
Was this when she was in jail?
Yes, right after she got arrested. So I went down there. No problem. He handed it right to me. Look in my wallet, make sure everything's in there. Like I said, I don't know if it was her driver's license or ID was missing, her food stamp card, and the other card, the bank card. I don't know how to get proof, but her best friend, he cashed out everybody money. There was a bunch of people,
I have
even himself.
Information right here.
Even himself and his girlfriend. I don't want to get into the whole...
I don't want to get into it either. It's far too complicated for me. Is what you're telling me that you never used a card that she had?
No, I did not.
Because I'm not concerned about food stamps or welfare.
I did not.
You're suing the wrong person. You were in jail, so you didn't need money from welfare. What proof do you have?
I have my bank statement.
What proof do you have that your mother withdrew money?
She was the one that went and picked up my cards.
Oh, I don't know that. That's not what she says, and you have no proof. Isaiah's not here, correct?
No.
I don't doubt you when you say that somebody used your card. I just need proof
My
to
mother,
show.
I know that she was supposed to get my daughter from CPS. She was supposed to go get a crib with my card, and I have the where she and my grandma can.
I just want you to show me.
Ma'am.
No. That your mother. I believe that people used your card.
She used my card.
No, I don't know that. I need you to show me proof that your mother
How am I
used
supposed to show? I have the.
She did not. I just want you to show me proof that any of these were used. I mean, we have a lot of PlayStations, DoorDash, Amazon Marketplace.
And
all
I was
of those.
locked up throughout that whole time.
I understand that. I suggest that you concentrate on getting yourself together. If you want to reunite your family, I suggest that you put your priorities in order.
Oh, they are in order.
Evidently not.
I work, I have a job, I go to school, I'm getting my own place, but I'm going to court, I'm getting my kids back.
Good.
Can I give you this?
I don't know what it is.
Well, I just want you to look at it.
Can I see it? You're telling me this is part of your daughter's criminal history? What is this?
No, I'm just showing you she just got out of jail just a couple of days ago.
They haven't picked up charges, Your Honor.
You were arrested on November 28th?
Yes.
I'm not going to let you tell me about this. You have a lawyer?
Yes.
As I said, Ms. Gutierrez, if you're trying to work to get your family back together,
Yes, ma'am.
and your kids back together,
Yes, ma'am.
it would be a good idea to think about having more children until you get these children back under your roof. We're done here. Your case is dismissed.
You have a good day.
This court is adjourned.
Oh, I love her decision. I don't want to have nothing to do with any of them. They've burned their bridges.
Perfect example of suffer the little children. So you have 3 kids, none of whom live with you. They go back and forth between a grandmother who would participate in evading the police, but where the police had to stop them by ramming the car.
Yeah, I was going to say there was something in the papers about a crash and.
She said he tried to ram my mother's car. So fingers crossed for her.
Administrative fees.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2126, Slago versus McCurchin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You run a school.
Yes, ma'am. It's a program.
Is it a school or a program?
It's a program.
What's the difference?
The program is not a school where the children come every day. They come twice a week. Parents.
They come twice a week online?
No, we are
in person.
In person, yes.
Okay, so twice a week they are there at a brick and mortar place?
Yes.
And how long have you had this program?
We actually started this program during the lockdown in 2020 spring. So this is at the end of our first semester of our 3rd year.
Okay, and tell me who runs the program?
I do.
You have an educational background?
I do. I have a master's in education.
Does anybody run the program with you?
I have a staff, but I'm the sole director.
Is this an annual program?
We do operate on a semesterly basis as far as payments, but the classes just roll over from first semester to second semester.
And is there a contract?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to show me the contract that the defendant signed on behalf of his son?
Yes.
Because that's what this case is about?
Yes.
The only interesting part of the case is your son was enrolled in the program. He was terminated from the program for, let's say, misconduct.
That's true.
And it was misconduct that was replicated in violation of the rules at least 3 times.
Kind of.
Not kind of, at least 3 times that you acknowledge.
Okay.
That's not an okay. That's not an okay. That's either a yes or a no. I mean, I read about 3 instances of cheating. You acknowledge that in your answer.
Well, it's different. It's different.
You mean he cheated differently?
No, he didn't cheat
well, that's what,
differently. I mean, I can explain.
It was explained in the papers.
Okay.
And you weren't there, so you can't explain. But you acknowledge the fact that he cheated. He was given a warning. You were advised. He cheated again. You were given a warning, and he was allowed to continue. On the 3rd such event, the school terminated him. Is that what I read?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you acknowledge in your papers?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, that's a yes. And he was within a semester. You would pay the tuition and then try to reverse the payment because you paid on a credit, which you had, in fact, received. Mm-hmm. And whatever you told the credit card company as a result of what you told them, the payment was reversed and taken off your credit card.
That is correct.
Right. And so they are here now seeking that tuition payment from a court. That's why we're here, to see whether contractually, because this is a breach of contract action, you were obligated to pay the tuition, even though your son was not in the program because he was dismissed for cause, which you acknowledge. Are we clear on where we are?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So now I'm going to look at the contract.
I'd like to add that.
Just let me look at the contract first.
Well, if you see contract, they're signed by my party. I want to see it too because I don't see my name. I sign a contract. That's a statement probably, or it's a
payment agreement.
Yeah, yes. That's not a contract.
Yeah, payment agreement is a contract, sir.
But signed by me?
Well, it says signed Arena and Jack. Okay. Is Arena your wife?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So this says, I understand that payments are due even if classes or memberships are dropped, subject to the refund policy. Well, what's the refund policy and where is that in writing?
It is on our website and they've signed it. It was a form that they had to sign.
Well, I'd like to see the form that they signed. So I have to see what the terms are of that.
These are the terms of The refund.
Thank you.
That's a screenshot of our website.
Now, the website is unimportant to me. You say you have an agreement signed by them. I'd like to see it.
Well, the agreement that we have signed was the installment agreement, so I'm sorry.
Well, I only have one payment agreement. What I said I want to see is a refund policy. You said you have that they signed. I don't see
They don't sign the policy on our website, and it's clearly...
No.
No? Okay.
No, what you have to do is you have to incorporate something by agreement in this contract. If you say the refund policy as outlined in the website, because other than that, it's meaningless.
Okay.
You know, you're saying we have a refund policy, and we assume that you looked on the website to see what the policy is.
We also do go over it in parent meetings with the parents.
That you can't do because you have a written agreement.
Right.
And anything that's outside of that agreement, unless it's referenced in the agreement, is inadmissible because the intention of it is to somehow change or modify the terms of your written contract. Okay, so in what month did the defendant's son start the program?
In August of 2021.
And it runs in 2 semesters. And when was he terminated?
He was terminated in February of 2022.
You were in a semester program?
Yes.
So am I correct that the first 2 episodes of cheating were in the first semester?
Yes.
When?
The first one was early in November. It happened to be the 3rd week of our 2nd semester. The next one was a couple of weeks later in the same month of November.
Okay, so the semester had started.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Semester.
Yes. And on what day in February was he terminated?
He was terminated on February 24th, I believe. Yes.
And when you terminated, the defendant, I assume, paid the entire semester's tuition for the 2nd semester.
The 2nd semester, he signed the installment agreement, which is what you have there.
This is a payment agreement.
Right. That's it. He agreed to pay in installments.
No. It says, I agree to pay all charges by due dates according to the payment plan. I don't have a signed payment plan from anybody. Do you have one?
I'm sorry. That's what we use for our signed payment plan.
Well, you should use something different. This is not a payment plan. This says he will pay according to a payment plan. I'm looking for the payment plan. You pay by the month, you pay by the semester. How do you pay? So when was the defendant's last payment?
They paid through the semester.
Through what semester?
2nd semester.
Okay, so they paid in full.
Through the installment. So what happens is they agree to be automatically billed. And so every month, a certain amount comes out.
Just a second. So what you're saying is when they sign up, they give you authority to pull out from their bank.
Yes.
Whatever the tuition is for that month.
Right.
Okay. And according to your records, when was the last payment that you received for the defendant's son prior to terminating him?
Prior to terminating him, we received a payment in February.
And you terminated him on February 24th?
Yes.
How much was that payment?
It was, have it right here. You know what? I don't know.
$350 every month.
300, that's right. $350.
I know, I got charged the extra month, so I know the number.
Okay, so it was $350 that you paid the beginning of February, and he was there in February.
That is correct.
Okay. In what month did you dispute the charge?
Well,
No, not well. I said, in what month?
May. I only realized in May she's been charging.
Just a second.
He was plagiarized by teachers.
It was plagiarized by teachers.
He was given notice because he lied on a test by teacher, yeah? But it's not exactly what happened.
They're not in the business of expelling children. They're in the business of keeping children in school.
But
you really have to get this through your head.
Lynn Slagle claims her customer, Jack McCurcheon, owes for tuition and administrative fees.
So you paid in February, and your son was there in February.
That is correct.
Did you pay in March?
It was taken out of my account without me knowing, but yes.
Is that $350?
That is correct.
And did you pay in April?
I did pay in April. I also paid for a May payment looking at my statements, I said, why are we paying for the child? He doesn't go to school anymore. And that's what I called them. And then I called my credit card company, explained to what happened. They said, we are going to charge the money back to your account. And that's when I kind of looked through paperwork, and I'm an immigrant in this country. I don't read really well. I can speak. And my son, he's a young guy, and he knows exactly what it is, and that's what I brought him. I said, can you see, do we owe these people money? And if you guys allow it, I can have Alex to explain what here shows.
Just see it. He doesn't have to explain anything to me.
Okay.
I'm not new to the country, and I was legally trained, so I don't need your son. I assume you're not legally trained?
I am not.
To interpret something, a piece of paper. So now I will look at the piece of paper that you're relying on, but I want to tell you this, sir. I pay the tuition for a lot of people, a lot, because I have 13 grandchildren.
Okay.
In school.
Okay.
I'll take that, Kevin. Thank you. I'm sorry. I know that if one of my kids or grandkids goes to school and gets expelled, and I've paid the tuition because I'm not on a payment plan, parents send the bill directly. and so I pay the tuition, but I know if one of the kids in November, once I pay the tuition, gets caught cheating on a test or plagiarizing a paper, and he or she is dismissed from the school, they're not going to give me my tuition back, even though he's not in school. I'm not going to get the tuition back for that semester.